Hello, and welcome to So You Think You Can Rule Persia, the podcast where we rate and review all the kings of Persia from Diocles to Yazdegerd III. I'm Serial, and my pronouns are they, them.
And I'm Umberto, and my pronouns are he, him. Hello, and welcome to episode 25.
25
quarter of
already.
100. That's a lot of episodes.
Unbelievable.
Yes, and this is the episode on Seleucus III, also known as Seleucus III Ceraunus, which means the Thunderbolt.
Ooh, that's fun.
Yeah. It's the same nickname that the Ptolemy that killed the first Seleucus had, but
Oh, so we're copying
this time it's in our
nicknames now.
hands, yes.
We're no longer original. I mean, I don't know if we were ever original. We usually go with, like, the victorious, the great, the merciful.
Yeah, I mean, Still, Lightning is a cool
Yeah.
name.
Weird one to repeat, I guess.
I guess, yeah.
Why? Is there, like, a legend with lightning falling on him or something?
It's actually kind of unclear. It looks like it's more of a personality thing, because it could either be due to his ambition in his life that we're going to see, or due to his personality being more loud and ambitious, like Ptolemy Ceraunus, which
I
had
see.
this sort of very brash personality.
Well, can you catch me up on what happened last time? Because I was
Yes.
going through it. I was actually talking about it with a friend, because they were asking how were the last, regions that we had. How is it going? The last kings that we've ranked. And I was like, well, it's been a mess. Like, some of them did okay, but then, like, things up again. Some others tried their best, but the situation wasn't, in their favor. They keep making the same mistake of not naming a successor, which doesn't help.
Yeah, we've been victims of a steady decline, where things have not been going great.
I feel like Antiochus the first did alright, and then Antiochus the second and Seleucus the second has been...
The first edition of Seleucus Antiochus pack did a good job. Second edition, not as great.
Yes, right.
The Gen 2 Seleucus and Antiochus weren't as good as Gen 1.
But for really, like, strange reasons to, like, either because of their own ambition to, like, instead of focusing on the empire that they do have, wanting to expand when they can't even take care of the parts that they have. Otherwise, personal ambition, like, I don't want my successor to succeed me before I die, kind of things. It's just, why?
Yeah,
they could have done so much
better managed, but So let's just quickly recap what happened last episode with Seleucus II.
Yes.
So if you remember, there was a whole succession issue between Seleucus II and Antiochus, child of Berenike, who was related to the Ptolemies and all that.
Who didn't
As a consequence
last
of this,
because the baby was mysteriously disappeared.
Yeah, it happens. So what happened is that Ptolemy III then rushed in, sacked Syria, Mesopotamia, took over Babylon, essentially made some of the bits in the east break off and become independent. He returned home to Egypt, and Seleucus II had to sort of retake things bit by bit. And when he was forced to make a peace with Ptolemy, he had to give away the graves of Seleucus I and Antiochus I, and the port of Antioch in the same city, which was not great, kind of humiliating. Then Seleucus II's brother made himself independent in Anatolia, Antiochus Hierax. And Seleucus II tried to kick him out, but failed, so he accepted that Anatolia was lost. Then he moved to the east, got defeated by the Parthians, who are this new nomadic people that have moved into where parts of the empire used to be.
Mm-hmm.
So Seleucus II was defeated there. Then his brother Hierax lost his kingdom in Anatolia and was forced to flee towards Mesopotamia, where he was defeated and eventually died far, far away.
Sadness.
And we left off where Seleucus II was preparing this big old expedition to try and retake Anatolia for the empire, but he fell off his horse and died.
Right, I forgot.
Where we remained.
I forgot about his very anticlimactic death.
Yes. But if you remember, he had two sons, the two remaining Seleucids in the world.
Right.
One of which is Antiochus, who was the youngest, who was left in control of Babylon at 16.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one was called Alexander, who was 18 years old and was following his dad in the army.
Right, yes. We had some hopes on Alexander.
Yes. So you were very concerned that we didn't have a King Alexander this round.
Yeah?
But I'm going to calm you straight away because Alexander
Does he just change his
king.
name?
He just decides to call himself Seleucus because... Yeah.
I see. To honor his
So no need for concern.
father, I guess.
Yeah. His father, or presumably Seleucus I, who managed to do things properly.
Who did better.
Yeah.
His great-grandfather
We'll
then.
see.
Great-grandfather or great-great-grandfather?
Yeah, great-grandfather. It's been father-to-son successions all this time, so that's surprisingly stable for the trash fire we've been dealing with.
True.
Okay, so let's get started with our Seleucus III Ceraunus. So Seleucus was born in 243, and as we mentioned, he had the name of Alexander, presumably in the hopes of a glorious future. Seleucus II didn't get his wish too much, but that's not great. Then for his first years of youth, we don't really hear much from him, presumably because he was a child and it was wartime throughout, so he didn't really have much to contribute. He was just sitting around, presumably learning from his dad and trying to figure out how the world works.
Right.
And that is when, at the ripe old age of 18, he managed to follow his father on campaign. His father fell off a horse and died, so congratulations, you're king now.
Lovely.
I hope you know what you're doing.
Panic.
Yeah, kind of an issue.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe he really wanted to be king. I don't know him.
You know, could be. Maybe he had a whole Lion King thing about, I just can't wait to be king.
Yeah.
Maybe. But yeah, the other personality thing that we know of him from this time is that for some reason he enjoyed putting flour in his wine. Not sure why.
Why do we...
Sounds
first
like a
of
weird
all,
thing to
why?
do. But...
Why are you just eating raw flour? What is wrong with you? Second of all, why do we know this?
This is from one of those weird historians where there's like half a fragment, and the only fragment we have is that, yes, this king liked to put flour in his wine. There we go. So, not sure why, but somebody had an interest in this. So there we go.
I see.
And yeah, why he'd do that, no clue. It maybe makes it less diluted, absorbing the water? I don't know.
But it would also absorb the wine. I don't think flour...
But maybe it doesn't absorb the alcohol as much. I don't know, man. It's very complicated.
I am confused.
If anybody does this, please tell us why. We don't know. But yeah, so now Seleucus is king. He has changed his name from Alexander to Seleucus because, well, we know that we can't have more than two names in this dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
This is how things have to be, so there we go. So as his first job as king is to secure the empire, because he has his brother who has a claim to taking over the empire, and since his uncle tried to overthrow his father, wants to make sure that there's no more brotherly backstabbing going on.
Maybe they could get along, I don't know.
He's trying to make it get along. Yeah, he actually sends a letter to his brother saying, hey, looks like you're doing a good job in Babylon. There haven't been any rebellions. Things seem stable there. I'm confirming you as my viceroy. Yeah. Keep it up in this region while I'm off in campaign in Anatolia. You take care of that. See you in a few years when I'm done with Anatolia. So that's nice. I mean, his brother's only 16 in charge of one of the most important regions of the empire.
Oh, I thought you said 18.
His brother's 16. Seleucus is 18.
Oh, I thought Seleucus was 19. I don't know why. My numbers are all messed up.
No, they're still very young.
Yeah, they're both teenagers. Okay, this is great. I'm sure it won't be a problem.
Yeah. Also, they're also a bit young to have any heirs, so that's an issue. We're risking the Achaemenid situation where the main line dies out.
I'm sure people will be like, let's just wait until they do have heirs.
Yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be cool. Yeah, exactly. Make sure until they have adult heirs who know how to take over and everything will be cool.
Yeah, of course.
So great. Okay, but now that we've sort of stabilized things, let's look at his battle plans in the west. So there are two directions in the west he has to look at. So the first one is retaking the Syrian cities that were under the control of the Ptolemies. because that was really humiliating. It's unsafe to have your capital at a stone's throw from your enemy.
I remember
Let's make sure everything is reorganized because, oh no, everything is on fire.
This was Seleucus the Great Victory Man, yeah?
Yes, Seleucus II, Seleucus Great Victory. Him. So that's one item on his checklist. The second item on his checklist is to retake Anatolia, because as we saw last time, Anatolia is under the control of the Kingdom of Pergamon, which just took over Anatolia from Hierax. So they haven't really consolidated everything, and they're weak enough that if we try and strike at them, we should be able to reconquer all the land relatively quickly and not have to go city by city. There's probably still loyalists around. So, awesome. Let's head over to Anatolia. So first of all, let's have a look at what is in Anatolia now, because basically it exploded under Antiochus I, and now it's just been continuously combusting for the past century or so.
Fun.
So, let's see. Let's look at the map of Anatolia. So, if we look at the westernmost section, basically the one that's across the sea from Greece, we have those dozens of little Greek city-states along the coast. They're all independent or semi-independent, depending on how close they are to somebody who's threatening.
Mm-hmm.
And also it's important to know that a lot of these tiny little cities are under the control of the Ptolemies.
Okay.
Because after their victory in the last war, they've used their massive fleet to take control of a lot of these coastal territories. Then instead, if we look at the center of Anatolia, we see the Galatians who are still around. So if you remember, they arrived around 50 years ago. They're the descendants of the Celts that came down across the Danube.
Mm-hmm.
And they were settled there since Antiochus I. And in this recent time, they've mainly been mercenaries. So they've served Hierax when he revolted against Seleucus II, and they're basically up for grabs in their loyalty. As long as you have enough money, you can ensure that the Galatians are on your side.
That's usually how mercenaries work, yes?
Yeah, basically. Then, if we look at the northwest of Galatia, which is basically the bit that connects to Byzantium and crosses into Europe, there's a kingdom of Bithynia, which was one of the first kingdoms to revolt after the death of Seleucus I. And their main strategy so far has been playing powers against each other to try and keep independent against the larger empires all around, as you would. And they've quite often made use of the Galatians for their mercenary armies. So they're the ones that invited the Galatians over in the first place. And sort of had them.
And then they didn't leave.
They forgot to pay them, and then it was like, oh, well, I guess we're living here now.
You don't, again, but just like being an emperor or like having a successful empire 101, which, because I am an expert on this, clearly, I have so much experience managing empires. Rule number 1, do not leave your empire without an heir. Like,
yes.
Just appoint an heir while you're still living, so there's no problems later. Rule number 2, pay your mercenaries.
Yes, always pay your mercenaries, please, if you don't want to get killed or cause trouble. So that's the issue. And at the moment, Bithynia is aligned with the Ptolemies because they're currently leading that area of the sea, but they're also somewhat closely aligned with the Seleucids, because Hierax married a princess of Bithynia, so they can be won over potentially if Seleucus does a good job. So we'll see how that goes. Then if we move further east on the northern coast of Anatolia, we find the Kingdom of Pontus, which was basically created by one of the many semi-independent satraps during Darius III's reign. It was one of those places that Alexander didn't go through, so it just decided to keep doing its own thing, essentially. And Pontus's rival is Bithynia. And since Bithynia is more on the Ptolemaic side, Pontus is more on the Seleucid side. So we can count on them a little bit more. Although they're not exactly going to stick their neck out for us if they don't have to. So there's Pontus. Then if we look to the south of Pontus and east of Galatia, we have the Kingdom of Cappadocia, which is another of these satrapies that broke off and did its own thing. And Cappadocia seems to be the one that is tied most closely to the Seleucids because, well, they're the ones that are geographically closer to them. And also, the king of Cappadocia is married to Seleucus's aunt, So the king of Cappadocia is allowing Seleucus's armies to march through his territory to get into the heart of Anatolia and fight his enemies. And speaking of his enemies, the last large power in Anatolia is the kingdom of Pergamon, which, it was a tiny city-state that rebelled against Antiochus I, and he just gave it up because he was tired.
Oh, yeah. I remember this.
Yeah, but since Hyrax wasn't super competent, they managed to just basically yoink all of Anatolia from him and make it into their own kingdom. So there we go. That wasn't ideal. That was kind of troublesome.
Yeah.
So Seleucus decides, having looked at the situation, he sees, okay, Cappadocia's our friend. We can use them to enter Anatolia. We can probably pay the Galatians enough to help us fight the people of Pergamon.
Probably? What do you mean probably? Can you pay or can't you pay? Listen.
Well, the center of the kingdom has been sacked for a while. We'll see how much they ask, and then we'll see if it's a fair bargain.
After they've worked for you, I don't think this is gonna work well.
Yeah, we can see how that goes.
Uh-huh.
But the good news is that Seleucus has an experienced general at his hands. He has a man called Achaeus, who was basically related to our Seleucus in two ways, one more likely, one less likely.
Oh.
So first of all, he is Seleucus's uncle through his mother. So he's related to that side of the family. That way, Seleucus's mother, Laodice, is the sister of this Achaeus.
Okay.
And secondly, this Achaeus is the grandson of the first Achaeus, who some say was the son of Seleucus I.
Okay.
So this is kind of messy, but it was somehow either a distant cousin of Seleucus, of our Seleucus III.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he was a distant cousin, but he was definitely his uncle via Seleucus's mother. So, bit messy, but he is tied to family somehow, so he has that grounds for loyalty.
We'll believe this.
Yeah. The good news is that Achaeus' family was basically who was in control of Anatolia before all the civil wars got messy. So they have a lot of family connections in the area, and they know a lot of the local landowners, and they also have a personal vested interest in retaking these lands so they can regain their territory and their position.
Right.
So Achaeus is helping Seleucus lead this army, and he's basically pulling all the strings, all the different contacts he has in Anatolia. So, after a couple of years of preparation, in 223, Seleucus declares war on King Attalus of Pergamon, and he marches off into Anatolia through his allies.
Mm-hmm.
We're not sure how it goes in detail, unfortunately, because of the sources and stuff. But what we know is that the war didn't go very well.
Oh no. Oh well.
Because we don't really get reports of Galatians fighting with him, so either he ran out of money early enough that the Galatians didn't fight with him, or he didn't have it in the first place and he just gave up and hoped for the best that his own men would do, but this didn't go very well. So Seleucus actually tried to sort of gather a council of his greatest generals to try and understand how to organize this war, how to come back from this, because, well, you don't want to permanently lose Anatolia. If Pergamon can consolidate, everything is a mess. So Seleucus tried to call on these people, and it seems there's discontent rising in the army. It's not super clear what happens next, but at some point, he is offered a drink by a Galatian man and one of his officers. So he is offered a toast, and Seleucus takes it from his loyal men, of course. He has a drink, he coughs again,
oh no,
and he dies.
Oh god. Wait, what?
Yep.
I blinked and I missed it. What? Please repeat.
Yep.
Is that it?
Yep, the war went badly, and some of Seleucus' men had him murdered.
Oh, dude. No.
Yeah.
Okay, so, poor boy.
There's one last element of the dynasty.
Yep, so how is his brother feeling right now?
Well, his brother is off in Babylon trying to figure out that, oh, cool, I'm 18 now. Guess I get to rule my own empire. Oh, there's no other heirs after me? That's interesting.
That's fun.
Yeah. Also, there's kind of an issue that the murderers of Seleucus weren't really questioned on their motive or if anyone paid them. Good old cousin / uncle Achaeus had all the murderers executed before they could be questioned.
I see.
So, who
so
knows?
It did great.
Distant relation to the royal family.
Uh-huh.
Maybe if there were no more direct Seleucids, he'd have to take control. Well, I guess we'll see what happens.
I think at this point that there's a relationship definitely between like how closely related you are to actually have a claim to the throne and how many people are there that actually like are directly in that line. Because if it's like 2 people, then like go ahead.
Basically, Achaeus is looking at the line of succession and it goes Seleucus III, Antiochus III, me. And he thinks, this seems like a nice plan. Okay, let's go for it. The problem is that Antiochus III, as we're going to call him, is off in Babylon, so he's far away from the army and away from Achaeus' direct control, but we'll have to figure out what happens to our boy Antiochus and who's going to be the one controlling this boy king. Because we're clearly not doing great anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we're at the lowest point of the dynasty. It's been only 100 years since Alexander the Great died, and everything is crumbling into nothing.
Fun.
So there we go.
This was a quick episode.
Yeah,
okay, everybody,
feels
that's it. Goodbye. We're done. See you next week.
No, he must rate him. He might. Let's see if he's the worst guy, or if there's somebody worse than him.
Right, I feel like this will take longer than the episode itself. Let's go over everything again, because I feel like we need to give people a run for their time.
Well, please. Don't worry, next episode is long. You can consider that. Because we have suddenly a bunch of sources, because there is a certain red-colored country in the West that takes an interest.
Ooh.
But we'll find out.
I see.
Oh, also, incidentally, since this is a short episode, let me just tell you. For those of you that have listened to the Totalis Rankium episode from the point of view of the elephants, that one, yes, it's good.
Excellent.
The one from Intelligent Speech, yes. The Elephantosaurus, who's the protagonist, is probably born in around this period.
Ooh.
And so he's either from one of the Syrian elephants from the court in Antioch, or he's from some of the elephants that Ptolemy III stole when he captured Antioch.
Crossover episode!
So this is where Saurus comes from. Yes, just make it entirely in elephant voices. So when you listen to that episode, you know where Saurus comes from. Probably.
I wonder how many people have listened to this episode and that episode.
We'll find out. Please let us know. Okay, so off to ranking. Our first category is final moments. How interesting was his death? Being poisoned by some soldiers who were then later executed mysteriously after having failed a war.
Yeah, he was assassinated. I mean, cool, interesting in the way that, like, it gives some narrative interest to what's going to happen next, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
Things weren't going great anyway, but I think, again, we have to blame the sources for that. If there's not much to discuss, then it's easy to dismiss it as a boring king, but it's not really his fault. He probably did a bunch of stuff. Also, the period is kind of iffy, and the line being very weak right now with not many heirs is just instability written all over it.
From this final moment, I like that it's a poisoning, which is always fun.
Yeah.
And I sort of would add an extra point for the fact that Achaeus probably had a hand in this.
Yes.
He's trying to hide every connection to the murderers.
Mm-hmm. Not suspicious at all.
So,
what do you mean?
Yeah.
It's just, I'm just doing my job.
Yeah, you'll see what happens to Achaeus next time, or what Achaeus makes happen. But yeah, I think I'm going for a 2 overall. That's my idea.
Yeah, I'll go for a 2. I'm considering if to go for a 3 just because it's something interesting that happened that we have information on. Like,
that's true, fair.
But it wouldn't really be fair, I think. So I feel like a 2 makes sense for the reasons you've mentioned. It is a poisoning, so that's a bit interesting. Like, it was a murder, and also probably Achaeus did it.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's likely.
come on.
I'd be surprised if he didn't.
But poor Alexander.
Yeah, poor baby Alex. I mean, or also this Alex. Also, he is also kind of a baby Alex.
Yeah. Less baby Alex.
Yeah, teeny Alex. Okay, so with a 2 and a 2, that gives us a score of 2 out of 10 for final moments. Next category is battle hardness. How good was he at war and fighting? Well, he was terrible. He lost so hard that he had to be murdered, so that's not great.
Apparently, yeah. Apparently people were so mad that he lost that they were like, and that's it with you. Goodbye. No second opportunities.
Yeah. That's not ideal, and besides that, we just get news of him being 18 and becoming king, surprisingly, and having no other experience, so yeah. 0.
I mean, he was traveling with his father to gain experience. That was the whole point, right?
Yeah. If his dad hadn't fallen off the horse, probably would have gained more experience, but alas, that was not the case.
Yeah, 0. I mean, again, he got murdered because he lost.
Because he was so bad, so yeah. Okay, so with a 0 and a 0, he gets a 0 out of 20 for battle hardness.
I mean...
The weakest Seleucid.
I don't think that's why he got murdered. Like, obviously he got murdered because Achaeus was like, my turn now. You know.
I mean, I guess, but if he was doing a really good job, it probably would have been harder to murder him.
I guess.
You know, you don't murder your king when everything is going super well and everybody's happy. There must be something that's the matter. Next category is scheminess. How good was he at plots and subterfuge? We
know nothing.
No evidence of anything.
0.
He was, nothing. Sorry. Seleucus, bye. So with a 0 to 0, 0 out of 20 for scheminess. Next category is shock factor. How shocking was this man? He mixed flour in his wine, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, 1 point for that.
Does that count?
1 point for that, for doing that, and for us knowing that.
Yes, I had to hunt really hard because I knew it was a short episode. I was like, oh, good. 1 fact. Let me put it in. Great. So, yeah. Are you going for 1 point? I'm wondering if to give it at all.
Yes, I am giving 1 point for that, for sure.
Fine. I'm giving it a 0 because I don't think it's worth that much. But
wow.
It's worth something.
Mean.
So, yeah. 0 and a 1 is a 1 out of 20 for shock factor, which makes him just a little bit better than his father for shock. So, hooray! Guess you're better than
Congrats.
him in that amount? Next category is Aaron Shine. How good was he for the Empire overall and Iran in particular? He lost the only war he was handled. Okay, so on the upside, he confirmed his brother in control of Babylon, and Antiochus kept doing a good job in Babylon. So that's nice.
Right. Yeah, he kept his own brother from, betraying him and having even a quicker decline.
Yeah,
so
and he also
good.
didn't kill his brother to destroy the dynasty entirely, so that's
Which
good.
Would have been really stupid to do. But also logical if you were threatened, but also, no, please don't.
Yeah, exactly.
I am so good at explaining.
Yeah. Yes, but the downside is he had an army prepared by his father for the very goal of taking back Anatolia, which was poorly held by
terribly.
Pergamon, and he lost terribly, presumably crippling the army, and now Pergamon has had more time to consolidate its land and make sure it owns Anatolia properly.
Yep. We're not getting that back.
And now that he's dead, there's 1 Seleucid left. And that's it.
Yeah.
So, and between a 0 and a 1, I'm wondering if it deserves a 1 just for not killing his brother. But...
Yes, a 1 because his brother is taking care of Babylon and it's going well, and he didn't create an unnecessary civil war in that front. Not that he had much time for it, but
No, not really. I feel bad for the Seleucus II now because we gave him 0, and he at least tried. But Seleucus, I mean, let's face it, Seleucus III isn't going to pass his father. I don't think we need to feel too bad about that. Yeah, I'm going to go for 1 point for keeping Antiochus in Babylon, not messing that up. But the empire's worse off than it was before, definitely.
Yep.
So I'm going for a 1, you matching?
Yes.
Okay. So with a 1 and a 1, we get a 2 out of 20 for Aaron Shine. Next category is Face of Faces. What do you think this man, this teen who tried to do something and failed miserably, what do you think he looked like?
Well, I'm going to need some time. Also, I'm going to need some inspiration because what do I do now? As per usual, in drawing this king of the Persian Empire, I am drawing mostly a horse. And then the king might also be there.
Yes, it's a horse with king attached. Maybe. Who knows? Okay, so Serial has finished their drawing, and let me see what this wonderful, famous, brilliant man looks like. Okay, so I've seen the preview. Oh no.
You know,
okay.
stuff happened.
Dear listeners. Oh,
I love that the horse is just as concerned. I feel like the horse feels really bad about this. They don't know what they did wrong, but you know.
Yeah, so in this scene, dear listeners, we have a horse to the left of the image that is looking very concerned, looking downwards. To the right, we have our protagonist, Seleucus III, or Alexander at the time, who's all dressed in armor, looking very concerned, wondering what he's going to do now. Looking downwards, in between them, there is a ... waiting to understand what just happened. And down below, there's a little skull coming up from where Seleucus II just fell off his horse and died. And forced his son to deal with everything and fail.
I like the mood of this one.
This is very good. I love it. Please look it up on the website. It's really good. The horse looks just so sad. It's like, oh no.
I know. Just like, oh no.
Poor horse.
I'm sorry.
He didn't mean to. Okay, but now, Serial, I'm going to show you what Seleucus actually looks like, and you can tell me what you think of his face. So here is a coin made from the time of his rule. Please describe him.
I like this. It is, as I expected, a coin just like the previous two kings. Same kind of style with a profile engraved on it. Or, you know, a low relief of a profile. I love these because they look like actual people. Like, he looks different than his father, and his father looked different than his own father. Like, and I'm sure there's a stylization on it, but like, it has the vibe of, yes, this is a person that like I could imagine like meeting.
Yeah, that's always nice to see. You can.
I really love.
They look real and not like the typical person.
He looks very young, which makes me think that he didn't rule for that long. Probably, you know.
We'll
given what we know. Big eyes, shorter hair, or like less curly hair with a diadem, and straight thin nose, but like smaller than the previous ones, and just softer overall features, which kind of makes sense since he's like, you know, a teen probably.
He gained the throne at 18, so it's understandable that he would be.
Yeah, it's really good. I like these. I forget what I gave the previous ones, but I like giving them like relatively high scores because like I love these.
Yeah, the portrait is good. I think it's the most important part of his reign.
That we have like some semblance of what?
Others. You gave Seleucus II and Antiochus II a 5, and you gave a 9 to Antiochus I.
Yeah, but that's because we had the comparison of like old and young, and that was very good. I'll go with another 5, I guess, just to keep it. You know.
Another 5. Yeah, I don't think I can justify more or less than that. It's not especially impressive. It's not especially disappointing. It's fair, middle of the road.
Yeah.
Okay, so with a 5 and a 5, he gets a 2.5 out of 5 for Face of Faces, which is pretty much what saves him.
Well.
Next category is lengthiness. How long do you think this man reigned? What is your feeling?
Well, he had enough time to like go to war and lose terribly.
Yes.
And enough to like communicate to his brother, hey, let's do this partnership thing. I'm gonna give him like a year and a half.
A year and a half might actually be the case, because we don't, the months
don't
are
even
messy.
know.
We have like
Oh,
2
no.
years. We have
Okay.
2-ish years of reign from 225 to 223. That's it. After 1 year, I'm counting full year, so it might even be a year and a half. I'm just counting 2. But yeah, fair enough understanding there. So if we take 2 years divided by 10, that gives us 0.2 out of 5 points for lengthiness. Which leads us to the final score, which is to say a total of 7.7 out of 100 for Seleucus III Ceraunus. Which puts him firmly at the top of the Zeros Club. So he's better than Philip Aridaeus, Alexander IV, and Xerxes II. But he is worse than Seleucus II and Artaxerxes IV. Which, yeah, feels a bit harsh towards Philip Aridaeus, actually, but
Poor Philip.
Yeah, he deserved better. The poor man was happy doing other things. But
never wanted this to begin with.
Yeah. I'm sure Seleucus III also probably would have been happier waiting a few more years, but well, things happen.
What can you do?
But are we ready to judge if he is interesting, fascinating, brilliant enough to be a Shah?
You always try to sell it so much. You always do your very best to be like, oh, but maybe this time, but maybe.
We'll see. Maybe he's so bad that it's memorable. We don't know.
I mean, that would be very funny. Honestly, that might happen at some point.
I feel like Didius Julianus is the type of person that's so bad it's memorable. But,
yes. I remember him, so...
Yeah, see? Yeah, unless you have a special affection for him, I don't think I would remember him or notice him if I hadn't done the research. And most of the research was on what's going on in Anatolia, so... Shahana.
Yeah, sorry.
Shahana. Okay, so sorry, Seleucus III. You can go off into the desert, tell your dad, Seleucus II, that no, you didn't manage to make it. Sorry, Dad. But to be fair,
Shouldn't
you
have
didn't
died.
get any training. So yeah, there we go. The horse is very concerned.
The
He was very sad.
horse wants you to know that he's sorry.
He didn't mean it. The road was messy. It happens. So, yeah, that is the end of today's episode. Thanks for listening to this penultimate Seleucid of this line. And we'll see what happens next with his little brother Antiochus, who is also an 18-year-old coming to the throne.
Also
Sarah,
with no
what are your
heirs.
predictions for Antiochus? Antiochus has no heirs, no brothers, nobody in his family. He is in Babylon, he's 18. And Achaeus just murdered his brother, probably.
I think Achaeus is going to send some messengers to deliver a very strongly worded note that essentially says, shut your stupid mouth and die already. Smiles. Yes. No, but I feel like some assassin is going to be sent his way.
Okay. Well, we'll see next time on the episode for Antiochus III. Do we get exactly 3 Antiochuses and 3 Seleucuses? That will be poetic. Tune in next week to find out. And also, in the meantime, if you have time and you've been enjoying the episodes, please take the time to rate us and review us wherever your podcast app is. That helps more people come and know us. Or otherwise, just tell your friends that we exist and maybe give us a listen.
Share the joy that this podcast is. Podcast?
Yes.
Share the joy that we are. We're professionals. No, we're not.
Totally.
We're really not.
Well, yeah, so I guess without further ado, we wish you a nice week, and we'll see you next time for Antiochus III.
Take care, everybody. And yeah, can't wait to see what is going... You said it's a long episode, so I'm very curious now.
Find out why.
Interesting.
Okay. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.